Hi everyone, I'm Elisha Krauss, and this week on the Washington Examiner Newsmaker series, we're going to be talking New York City's mayoral race with a gentleman who just won the GOP primary there for mayor, Curtis Sliwa. He's a born and bred New Yorker and the founder of the Guardian Angels, who thinks that he can win over Democratic votes because he's going to be tough on crime. Curtis, it's good to see you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. I want to jump right into it. I mean, I think you would say that New York City is the greatest city in the world. It's definitely known as one of the most populous and diverse when it comes to demographics from different minority groups and the haves and the have-nots. As mayor, what would you do to help protect and defend, and I think education is also part of your platform, to lessen the divide between those people that are the haves and the have-nots in your city?
Well, Alicia, it starts with what the elected officials do. It can't be do as I say, but don't do as I do. I ride the subways every day. I have my fingers on the pulse of the majority of New York City residents because the veins and arteries of the city is this massive subway system, which is unusable because of all the crimes, because of all the emotionally disturbed persons, the lost souls who are living in the system, a danger to themselves and everyone else, and the homeless, again, who needs to be properly housed and given programs, not to be allowed to roam aimlessly about, not just in the subways, the streets and the parks. So you got to be able to crack down on crime, which is what I'm known for in 42 years as the founder and leader of the Guardian Angels in New York City and 13 countries and 130 cities. But you also have to be compassionate to the emotionally disturbed and the homeless and get them the help that they desperately need, which is something that liberal, progressive Democrats say they want to do. But it's clear they've abandoned them. And we're now Dante's Inferno. We're no longer the safest big city in America. We're no longer the desired location for tourists to come now that the pandemic is beginning to wane. We are the largest city in America and the slowest to recover from the pandemic because of one thing: crime. People are afraid to come and visit, come back to work because of all the violent crime.
So I want to circle back to those demographics and the unique diversity of New York City. It is home to the largest Jewish population in the United States. And recently, video of you in 2018 at an event in upstate New York, I believe, resurfaced, where you made some comments that honestly seem pretty similar to those that have been made by Representative Ilhan Omar and Louis Farrakhan. And when asked to apologize, you pointed out your opponent Eric Adams' affiliation with Farrakhan. Are you going to apologize for those remarks?
Well, I'm having meetings with all of the Jewish leaders that have always come to the defense of Guardian Angels, have been there for the Lubavitchers in Crown Heights, for the Hasidim, when the observant Jews were being attacked during Hanukkah, and most recently in Riverdale. It's all about the schooling that the Orthodox and the Hasidim have and whether they will follow certain state and city regulations. I apologized back in 2018. I shouldn't have used that kind of language. And if necessary, because I'm running for mayor, we'll do it again. But the Jewish community knows their best friend is Curtis Sliwa, because I've been out there with the Guardian Angels protecting them when they're under attack. And I was in Israel in the second Intifada when almost nobody would go there. So yeah, we're working that out as we speak.
So you did mention that crime is a very big issue when it comes to not just tourism, but people being afraid to return to work in New York City. Obviously, having lived there for 7 years, I know a lot of people commute into the city from other boroughs, even New Jersey, Connecticut, and the surrounding states. What are you going to do to be tough on crime and to fix this problem?
Well, number one, and this is an issue that few, if any, elected officials are focused on. Police officers are facing a problem in which qualified immunity is being stripped from them. These are the protections that civil servants, elected officials, district attorneys, and judges have. Unfortunately, all of the enemies of the police have decided, guess what? There's one group out there who's no longer going to be protected by the taxpayer, even though they risk their life each and every day, and they have to physically engage people, which sometimes puts them in harm's way and can result in missteps on their part. Perfect example, Alicia. Governor Cuomo, obviously being investigated for the deaths of thousands of the elderly who, when he wrote an executive order after the lockdown, transferred them from COVID-19 hospitals in to long-term nursing home care units, resulting in their deaths, he has qualified immunity. Mm-hmm. That means there are millions of dollars of personal lawsuits being filed now against the state because of the actions he took, not him personally. We can't do this to the police because they'll never become proactive. So what I've advocated is not just refunding the $1 billion that was taken from the police budget, but hiring an additional 3,000 cops by having a directed property tax at those that don't pay property tax. A lot of people were surprised when I mentioned that Madison Square Garden pays no property tax. Columbia and NYU universities sit on billions of dollars in endowments, and they pay no property taxes. So you say to yourself, let's take that money dedicated to the hiring and training of police officers so we can have 38,000 cops again, the same number that Rudy Giuliani had, who I helped get elected back in 1993 when he made us from the most dangerous city in America, the murder capital of America, into the most safest large city in America. I followed Rudy in terms of how he did it, and I know exactly what needs to be done. You got to take the handcuffs off the police, you got to put them on the criminals, and you got to get rid of this no bail law. Now, it's not a city law, it's a state law. This is Cuomo's responsibility. He now has a no bail law in which if you commit a crime, you don't get remanded to jail. You go out into the streets to do it again and again. And this is added to the mayhem, the chaos, and the anarchy. And as mayor, I'll deal with everything from day one.
So talking about your Democratic opponents and, of course, Eric Adams, it looks like he's going to be the likely winner. There's this thing that is now getting national attention that you guys use in New York City for the first time on the Democratic side, ranked choice voting. Can you tell us your thoughts on that and, when you might actually know who your Democratic opponent is for the general election?
Well, Alicia, for those out there who are not familiar, it's like filling out a bingo card. You get your first choice, second choice, third choice, and then you go for the Bluebird special afterwards. I actually was a supporter of ranked choice voting because I think it gets more people involved. It's just like, look, I'm a baseball fan. It used to be as a Yankee fan. The Yankees would win the American League. The Dodgers would win the National League. And nobody else could participate in the playoffs. Now they have wild card. They have all kinds of different formulas that a team is never really out of winning a championship. Just like now, a candidate is never, ever totally out of possibly winning an election that you thought they lost. It makes it more stimulating, makes it more interesting. And as you can see, the Democrats have gotten the bulk of the attention. Alicia, I'm fighting for any attention I can get because I only had one opponent who I beat handily, where there was no ranked choice voting.
And do you think that that's a pro or a con for the voters of New York?
Well, the whole point was to avoid a expensive runoff. But I can tell you, they have public financing here. The whole idea was to eliminate outside money, PACs, and there are more PACs than ever before. I mean, I'm getting clobbered by the Democrats who have such an overwhelming amount of money compared to what I have, because I was the last candidate to announce in March 15th. So if anybody out there wants to see who I am and what I stand for and whether they can help, because they got to build a firewall, because, they're going to call me a sexist, a misogynist, a homophobe, a racist. This is what Democrats do to try to chop down Republicans who challenge them, especially in urban areas. They just go to CurtisSliwa4Mayor.com. That's CurtisSliwa4Mayor.com.
So you mentioned how you were an early supporter of Rudy Giuliani. Of course, Michael Bloomberg also ran as a Republican before he changed parties. So Republican mayors have been able to win and, history has shown relatively succeed in their leadership in the city. Why do you think there was such a drastic shift to Bill de Blasio? And what are you going to do to capture those Democratic votes in such a highly congested liberal area?
Well, you're right. In fact, the demographics are even worse than they were for Rudy or Michael Bloomberg. Remember, we had 20 great years of Republican mayors, and people forget 12 years of Governor Pataki in charge as the Republican governor. We had not only a good quality of life, zero tolerance, but low crime, and good progress, and people were prospering. Now, all of a sudden, Mario Cuomo was the governor before with David Dinkins the mayor. We were the murder capital of America. His son, Andrew Cuomo, is the governor now, and Bill de Blasio, student of David Dinkins, is in charge, and only Chicago supersedes us in violent crime. So the way to transcend that is I will also be running on a independent party line, which is very important because there are some people who would never in their lifetime vote for a Republican. And the big issue, the big three issues that I have going for me, especially in neighborhoods where the only Republican they've ever seen is Abraham Lincoln on a $5 bill, which is where I've spent 42 years of my life as leader of the Guardian Angels, is compassion for the emotionally disturbed person, these lost souls who are in the streets and the subways and parks, because the Democrats have cast them out there from the hospitals. And compassion for the homeless, of which there are so many who get warehoused, but are not provided the services to deal with their alcohol or drug addictions and their emotional issues. And then the one issue that has galvanized so many who were Trump lovers, Biden lovers, apolitical, tree huggers, is the first no-kill shelter platform ever in the city of New York. I am an animal lover. I raised 15 rescue cats with my wife Nancy in a 320 square foot studio apartment in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Every one of those 15 cats, Elisha, was scheduled to be euthanized, killed within 72 hours. Whereas Los Angeles has a no-kill shelter now, and Austin has no-kill shelters now. And when I'm mayor, first thing I'm going to do, no-kill shelters. They are our friends, our furry little friends. They are our family members. We will find homes of their own with so many who would like a dog or a cat, and so many rescue groups out there who would rescue them if given the time. But we euthanize them within 72 hours, and it costs us millions of dollars to do that, Alicia. That's, as we would say in the streets, a disgraziata, a disgrace.
Is there anything that the current mayor, Bill de Blasio, has enacted that you think that you would continue as mayor of New York?
Yeah, the first thing he did right out of the box was great, pre-K, pre-kindergarten. And I was a supporter of that. In fact, two of my sons benefited from that. It's great. You get the children involved in learning the basics at a younger age than they normally would, especially in the urban areas where they may not have the same amount of help at home, you know, from a two-parent home or from the technology. Because now, look, my youngest sons, they're on the computer. I'm a Luddite. They know more about me than, more about the computers than I do. So it's really important to get the children engaged. But we need an increase in charter schools, which Bill de Blasio has been opposed to, more vocational training schools, because the demands in the jobs sector are for carpenters, electricians, plumbers, computer programmers. We don't have enough. That's why we have to get foreigners in on visas to fill those slots, and then to give parochial schools tuition tax credits and vouchers, because we need to champion them. They were the only schools open during the pandemic in New York City, the only ones that had in-classroom training where both the teachers and students were there, whereas the public schools and the charter schools, they had the virtual training, which was a disaster. I would redshirt the children, including my own three sons who go to public schools, because they lost a little more than a year of education in which they were constantly distracted. Constantly, you'd see them playing Fortnite or Roblox instead of paying attention to the teacher. We really hurt our children. And the teachers union was the largest impediment to that, because they would not allow their teachers to go back into the classroom. And there was no science to their rationale. There was no common sense to their rationale. In September, every schoolroom needs to be opened up because we got to make up for lost time.
So we've covered education, we've covered crime. It sounds like you're a school choice fan, which I appreciate as a mom that has also struggled during a pandemic like so many others. Another issue that's a result of de Blasio's leadership, Democratic leadership in your city, but also the pandemic, is economic struggles for those there. What would you do to help business? And I mean, with the growth of big tech or, you know, innovation in the United States, what would you do to potentially draw people who are fleeing the Bay Area to New York City? Why should they go there?
Well, first off, Elisha, there's too much government interference to begin with, from the cradle to the grave of regular citizens and to small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and large businesses. We have a lot of empty commercial space because of the pandemic, the lockdown, millions of square feet. They're going to have to be repurposed, but not all into affordable housing like the progressives or the AOC crowd, all-out crazy crowd wants, which is to tell people, even as we recover, don't pay residential rent, don't pay commercial rent, drive the landlords out, no police, no prisons. They want anarchy. So as a mayor, you got to stand up to them, but you also have to say capitalism should rule. Supply, there's way too much supply, not enough demand. So landlords and realtors and those who hold mortgages and Wall Street and bankers, they're going to have to come to the table with those who want to get into business. And I have a right to business plan for a lot of new entrepreneurs, many of them immigrants who came to America because they wanted to believe in the rags to riches story, that they could work hard, end up with their own business, and prosper as they can. But you got to cut out all the fees, the fines, the permits, the licenses. You got to give them an easy pass approach, micro loans. You got to give them some mentoring, tutoring, because the most difficult days for a small or mid-sized business is in the first few years. And you have to be there for them when they run into all the rules and regulations that the bureaucracy set up. And we're never going to get back to the point where all of the square footage is repurposed. Too many people are comfortable at home working. Too many companies save money by having their employees do that. And e-commerce boomed during the lockdown. So a lot of people are now used to buying things online. So I don't want to be a politician who promises, oh, we're going to resurrect, we're going to return to the greatness and grandeur, 24/7, 365, the city that never sleeps. Yeah, most of it. But there's some of it we're going to be $1 short and a day late on. And we have a looming $5 billion debt that de Blasio is saddling me with as the next mayor. So I'm telling all the unions and everyone else who says we need a pay raise, and others who are running for office say, yeah, we'll give you the pay raise. They lied to them. There's no money in the budget. You have to be honest and say, we're going to have to do more with less. I live in a 320 square foot apartment, raise 15 rescue cats with my wife. We do more with less. I have to set the example for the rest of the city, and I have to be the cheerleader for the city to help reopen the city, encourage tourists to come, and encourage visitors from outside of the 5 boroughs to come. When the cultural and the entertainment centers of New York City open up, which are the most magnificent in the world.
All right, Curtis, good luck in the race, and we'd love to have you back sometime soon, sir. Thank you for your time.
Oh, my pleasure, Elisha. And anyone wants to help or find out more about who I am and what I'm doing in running for mayor, just go to CurtisSliwa4Mayor.com. That's CurtisSliwa4Mayor.com.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Elisha.